Pokemon cards are funny in the sense that some cards are great right away and other cards are not. There are cards that start out bad for years at a time before they finally find their footing, whether it is the addition of new cards, changes in the meta, or players just figure out how to use them. So today, I wanted to go through a couple of cards in recent history and showcase those late bloomers. I'm Jet from InThirdPerson.com. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and let's talk about these bad Pokemon cards that eventually became amazing. The inspiration for this video is actually Regidrago V-Star. This is a card I've always loved, but it hasn't always been as good as it has been right now. And it always had potential. That Apex Dragon move is so cool, having the option to copy different Dragon Pokemon's attacks from your discard pile. Always awesome, but it had two major problems. And one of those is the fact that maybe it didn't have the right suite of attackers to copy, and that acceleration cost, or that energy cost of 2 grass and a fire energy, was just too awkward. Now, for a long time, we had Leafeon V, which could accelerate a grass energy directly to Regidrago, but in recent times, this deck has found its footing, and look, it took over 560 days for it to finally come to life, and 2 cards saved Regidrago V-Star, the first of which is Teal Mask Ogerpon, and the second is Dragapult. Teal Mask Ogerpon has the Teal Dance ability where it can accelerate grass energy to itself, and then from there you can energy switch it to Regidrago V-Star so that Regidrago V-Star could attack, or you can just keep it on Ogerpon so it can attack with something else, like say the Raging Bolt's attack, or if you're copying Giratina V-Star's attack where you're throwing energy into the Lost Zone, Teal Mask Ogerpon could just hold that energy for Regidrago to blast with. So multiple purposes for Teal Mask Ogerpon on that front. And then Dragapult EX is an amazing attacker. That Phantom Dive attack doing 200 damage to the active and then 6 damage counters on the bench in any way you like. Phenomenal attack, but Dragapult has been struggling to find its footing because it's a stage 2 Pokemon. It's difficult to set up, but Regidrago having to only evolve once makes it a lot easier to get Dragapult's attack off when Regidrago copies it. So the combination of Teal Mask Ogerpon and Dragapult have made Regidrago an absolute beast. Gardevoir was an absolutely dangerous card in 2023. However, this was a card that sucked for a long time. It came out in Chilling Reign in 2021 and did not find its footing until 2023 at 652 days later. And another card that's very similar, basically shares the same attack, Zacian V, had the exact same problem. Both of these cards required a ton of energy on them in order to do big damage, and neither of them had a way of getting energy onto them in an efficient way until Gardevoir EX showed up. Its Psychic Embrace ability allowed you to accelerate energy from the discard pile to your Pokemon in any way you like, and, well, your Psychic energy to Psychic Pokemon in any way you wanted. Of course, you had to do damage to your Pokemon along the way, but it didn't really matter when both Gardevoir and Zacian were one-hit KO machines in the process. And it's kind of crazy, like everybody thought because Gardevoir EX was losing these attackers that the deck would be bad going forward, but because of the way the meta has shifted and the rise of Drifloon and Screamtail, Gardevoir EX is still amazing. Arguably the most hated card in standard format right now is Snorlax. That block ability is so annoying, being able to prevent your opponent from retreating from the active. So you're just trapping Pokemon that can attack, and then hopefully you force your opponent to run out of cards. This is a card that actually has been in the format in the past, and it was very good then. I think it was still good in expanded format, but in terms of modern standard right now, this kind of became good in Paradox Rift thanks to the rise of Counter Catcher. This was actually an older card that has since been reprinted, and it let you gust up a Pokemon from the bench to the active if you were behind on prizes. So having an item-based gusting option, plus being able to stack in a bunch of boss's orders as well into the Snorlax deck, really made the stall strategy viable, for better or worse. Rayquaza VMAX was the most hyped card in Evolving Skies. People thought this was going to be an absolute unit because we'd seen Rayquaza in the past with a very similar attack and it was very strong then. And when it came out in Evolving Skies, it sucked. It sucked. It had a really awkward attack cost. You were constantly discarding energy. Even the Flaffies couldn't help Rayquaza VMAX, which it kind of was supposed to be its original partner. And this card languished in obscurity for a really, really, really long time. It wasn't until a couple of months before it rotated where it finally got some tournament results. There was a tournament in Europe where the Arceus Firebox finally became a thing. Arceus V-Star is a solid attacker, great for energy acceleration. You could accelerate a bunch of fire energy on the board, and then Armarouge could help you move energy from the bench to the active, and this is fire energy specifically. And the combination of Arceus being able to get fire energy on the board and Armarouge moving the energy around, Rayquaza VMAX became a one-hit KO machine. Now, arguing like it was Rayquaza VMAX even good at the time because it really only had a couple tournament results. It was towards the end of it was towards rotation. It didn't have a lot of time to shine after that, but I actually really loved this deck just before the rotation happened, and it's kind of a shame that Rayquaza VMAX did not find its footing until the very end. Amazing rare cards from Vivid Voltage and Shining Fates I think they were intended to be bad. They had these ridiculous attack costs, like Amazing Rare Yveltal here has Fire, Psychic, Dark, and 2 colorless for an instant KO. This was bad for 631 days. And Amazing Rare Raikou is one that was bad for even longer at 729 days. That Amazing Shot attack is amazing for Grass, Metal, and a Lightning Energy, does 120 damage to the active and 120 damage to the bench. And there were 2 things that made these cards come to life. And that was technically 3 things. We'll get to that. Lugia and Archeops. Lugia was able to bench Archeops with that Summoning Star ability. Then Archeops came in and accelerated 4 special energy at a time, 2 per Archeops, and was able to power up all of the amazing cards. Now it was Yveltal and Raikou that were the primary Amazing Rare cards that showed up in Lugia. And what made these attacks possible that isn't possible in Lugia now is that every energy type had a special energy as well. There was a special fire energy. I think it was called heat energy. There was a special psychic energy. There was a special dark energy, and so on. And that's not a thing in the Scarlet and Violet era. I feel like the Pokemon Company understood that having special energies of each type was a problem and could make a card like Lugia and Archeops absolutely broken, so they kind of took that out. But during those couple of months before these cards rotated out, the Lugia deck was an absolute nightmare because of amazing sniping like Raikou and instant KOs on VMAX Pokemon with Yveltal. So absolutely nuts. I think these cards were intentionally meant to be bad, and then because of Lugia Archeops, they became amazing. Last one we're going to look at is Dialga V-Star. This is one that always had potential. That Star Chronos attack for 4 metal and a colorless is absolutely insane, doing 220 damage, and you get to skip your opponent's turn so that you can go again. But getting 5 energy onto Dialga just wasn't consistent. We used to have this like really wonky engine with Celebrations Mew, which would dig up items, and then you use Scoop Up Net and you'd spam Mew and try and get Metal Saucers so you can eventually attach enough energy to Dialga. It was a lot of fun, if annoying for your opponent to sit through. But Dialga V-Star finally became good in Temporal Forces thanks to Metang, and this became a more reliable way of getting energy onto Dialga. We sort of had energy acceleration with Magnezone, but that was a stage 2. This one was a stage 1, and you got to look at the top 4 cards of your deck and attach any basic metal energy you find there onto your Pokemon in any way you like. And Dialga V-Star finally won a regionals it's the Indiana Regional. Shoutouts to Andrew Hedrick for that win. And I don't know if Dialga V-Star is going to hit those highs again. The meta's kind of shifted yet again, where Dialga's it's kind of on the edge of the meta, but at the very least, it's a solid and playable deck. It finally got a chance to shine, and this was a card that languished in obscurity for years until Matang showed up. And there we go. That is a look at some Pokemon cards that sucked until they were amazing. So next time you're looking at your collection and looking at the cards, don't necessarily judge them at face value at the moment in time, because certain cards that seem to be bad right now could be good later. We have no idea what is in store for the Pokemon trading card game, and the story that happens of just cards that used to stink that have become incredible just happens seemingly every set. Anytime there's a new set released, it brings new life to old cards that we ignored, and they become relevant. So what say you? What other cards kind of fit this description of being bad for a long time until they weren't? Let me know in the comments below, and maybe we'll come back and explore this topic again. But for now, I gotta get going. Thank you so much for watching. You can find me on all the things: YouTube, TikTok, Twitter, and Instagram at In Third Person. You can find me on Twitch at In Third Person, where I stream the Pokemon trading card game every Sunday at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. And check out the website, inthirdperson.com, for more articles and videos on video games, board games, and other nerdy pursuits. So until the next one, I'll see you later. Bye-bye.